So Spain is known for making some of the best empanadas ever, from the region of Galicia in northwestern Spain all the way to the region of Murcia in southeastern Spain. You're gonna find some great empanadas. Today we're making one from the province of Lleida, from the beautiful region of Catalonia. We are talking savory spinach empanadas. These empanadas are known in Catalonia as Panadons de Lleida. And let me tell you, they have so many great flavors. They're sweet and savory. They're absolutely delicious, but the best part, they're very easy to make, made with very simple ingredients, and you can serve them either as a snack or even as a main course next to some roasted potatoes and a couple fried eggs for an incredible meal. Let's begin by grabbing a small fry pan, heating it with a medium heat, and adding in a 1/4 cup of pine nuts. This equals 30 grams. And we're going to dry roast the pine nuts between 2 to 4 minutes or until they're lightly toasted, making sure to mix them frequently, otherwise they easily burn. Once the pine nuts are lightly toasted, I'm going to remove them from the heat and set them aside. For the next step, I'm going to grab a large saute pan that's nice and deep. You want to use a larger pan here, as we're going to be adding in some spinach into the pan later on, and you want it to be big enough to hold it all in there. I'm going to heat it with a medium heat, and I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, which equals 30 milliliters. After heating the olive oil for 2 minutes on a medium heat, I'm going to add in a medium-sized onion that I roughly diced, and start mixing the onion around with that olive oil. I like to mix this continuously, that way the onion doesn't burn and it all evenly cooks. About 5 to 6 minutes after adding the onion into the pan and it's nice and translucent and developing a light golden fried color, I'm going to start adding in some fresh spinach into the pan. I'm going to be adding a total of 20 ounces, which is 600 grams. Make sure to add it in there in batches, that way it doesn't overflow out of the pan. And start mixing the spinach around with that olive oil and the onion, that way it easily wilts. Now the fresh spinach I'm using to make this recipe is bagged spinach. I love this stuff, like I always tell you, pre-cleaned, pre-cut, and inexpensive. But if you prefer, you can totally use frozen spinach here. Just make sure you fully thaw it out and you drain any of the excess water in it. And as the spinach begins to wilt and come down in volume, continue to add more fresh spinach into the pan in batches and cook it in this exact same technique until it's all been added. Once all the spinach has been added into the pan and it's fully wilted, once again this was 20 ounces or 600 grams of spinach, I'm going to grab our toasted pine nuts and add them into the pan, along with 1/3 cup of raisins. This equals 53 grams. And season everything generously with sea salt and freshly cracked black pepper. And we're going to give this a quick mix, that way all these ingredients are evenly mixed together. And we'll remove our spinach mixture from the heat and set it aside, that way it can cool off. For the next step of the recipe, let's make our empanada dough. I'm going to add in 2 cups of all-purpose flour into a large bowl. This equals 240 grams. Along with 2 teaspoons of baking powder, which weighs about 8 grams. And a generous 1/2 teaspoon of fine sea salt, which equals 3 grams. And I'm going to give this a quick mix, that way all the dry ingredients are evenly mixed together. Then I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, which equals 30 milliliters. And 2/3 cup of cold water, which is 158 milliliters. And I'm going to mix all these ingredients together until they start forming a dough. Once the mixture turns into a dough, get in there with your hands and mix it all together and lightly knead it inside of the bowl just between 1 to 2 minutes. This is to ensure that all these ingredients are perfectly binded together. Then I'm going to shape the dough into the form of a ball. Sprinkle some all-purpose flour on a clean flat surface. add the ball of dough on top, cut it into 2 evenly sized pieces, and once again, shape each one into the form of a ball. And we're going to cut each ball of dough into 4 evenly sized pieces to end up with a total of 8 pieces of dough. Then we're going to grab each piece of dough, doing this one at a time, and start flattening it out. We want a circular design that's about 1/8 of an inch thick. I like to do this with my hands, but you can totally use a roller here. Once the piece of dough has been flattened out, I'm going to add in a generous portion of our spinach mixture. I like to use a slotted spoon here, that way no excess liquid gets in there. Then I'm going to fold the dough over the spinach mixture to end up with a half moon design, and pinch the outer layers to seal the empanada. And to double seal the empanada, instead of using a fork, we're going to grab those outer edges of dough and roll them over to kind of give it like an outer rim. This is exactly how they're made in the province of Lleida. And as you finish each empanada, transfer it into a baking tray that's lined with parchment paper. And continue to do this until all your empanadas are assembled. Once again, you should end up with 8 from this recipe. Once all the empanadas have been assembled and they're into the baking tray, I'm going to grab some egg wash and brush it on the tops of the empanadas. This is what gives them that beautiful and classic golden color. If you want to veganize this, you substitute the egg wash for some extra virgin olive oil. And add the empanadas into a preheated oven, bake and broil option. That's the bottom heat and top heat, 210 degrees Celsius, which is 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, if your oven doesn't do both functions at the same time, no big deal. Just bake them for an extra 5 minutes and make sure to get them there at the halfway point and flip them around. That way they're evenly baked. After about 15 minutes, these empanadas should be perfectly cooked. I'm going to remove them from the oven. And check it out, our savory spinach empanadas are done. Panadons de Lleida, an incredible empanada from the beautiful region of Catalonia. Let's give these a try and see how they taste. These empanadas came out looking so good. Crack it open. Look at that filling in there. Absolutely delicious. It's sweet and savory, that feeling inside with the raisins, the fineness of spinach and the onions, and then that crust has a beautiful texture to it. You saw it. A beautiful empanada from the province of Lleida. Make it at home, very easy to make, simple ingredients full of so many great flavors. And like I told you earlier, serve it as a snack or even as a main course. And also you can add these into the freezer. That way you can make them ahead of time, and these pop them in the microwave for about a minute and you are good to go for one of the best empanadas ever. Really quick before I go, a shout out to a couple of my patrons, Aravinda Tarimea and Richard Brown. Once again guys, thank you so much for being patrons of Spain on a Fork. You know how much I appreciate you. For the rest of you, if you're not with me on Patreon, consider becoming one. Helps with ingredients and equipment to continue making videos like this. You'll find my Patreon link in the description box below and iCard above. If you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button, leave me a comment below, and if you're not subscribed, smash that subscribe button. Till the next time, hasta luego.